Rah, why is the wolf here? Why isn't Winnie in the tomb like I said? Cherry, what the
Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Natalie Megan and this is Weirdo Book Club. It's been a while, I know, but I promise I have not forsaken you. Today I come bearing gifts in the form of more Peter Pan Lost Boy nonsense. But before we dive in, I wanted to take a second and tell you about the sponsor for today's video. Yes, your girl got another sponsor. I don't know what to do with myself. Bellesa. Bellesa reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to partner with them for the month of June to send free vibrators and gift cards to my audience. And I said, yeah. Bellesa is a bi-woman company for all things sexual wellness, and their mission is to empower everyone to embrace, explore, and celebrate their sexuality. I'm on board with this mission, obviously. I mean, you see what I read, and I am trying desperately to find what works for me. Books I'm having a hard time with, but Bellesa made it very easy to know what works for me. They sent me 3 really great products from their catalog, and I'm going to tell you all about them. First up, we have the Pebble, the Air Vibe, and the Thump. The Pebble is dual action. It has suction and vibes, and it doesn't have any of those annoying patterns. Like, I don't know who those are for, and if they're for you, I love that. But for me, those ain't it. The Air Vibe can do 2 things at once, unlike any man I've ever known. It stimulates you internally with vibrations and externally with air and suction. Also doesn't have annoying pattern modes. And then we have my personal favorite. It's a 3-in-1 toy that fits comfortably in your hand as well. The first setting is vibes. The second is suction. And the third one is the thumping. And you can do all 3 of these at once. Obviously, this one is my favorite. Another really cool feature is that they go into these little charging cases. So they are discreet, great for traveling, but also they just plug in and charge like this. Love that. All 3 of them are waterproof, rechargeable, and don't have any of those little annoying pulsing settings. Bellesa ships worldwide, and they offer 100% discreet shipping and billing because your pleasure is no one's but your own. Unless you want to grace them with permission to be involved, that's your business. As I said, Bellesa and I are offering free toys or gift cards towards toys for anyone who signs up using my link in the description below. Everyone who signs up will win something. Thanks again to Bellesa for sponsoring this video. I'm thrilled to be partnering with another bi-woman business who encourages everyone to explore their sexuality. Speaking of sexuality, get back to the book. We are taking yet another dip into the Neverland Lagoon. For those of you who are new around these parts, I've done the Never King. I've done the Dark One. Winnie has done everyone, and now we're on to book 3. Book 3 of 4 in the Vicious Lost Boys series, Their Vicious Darling. It's 251 pages, and it's classified as a dark why choose romance. Why choose meaning that the main character gets multiple partners to do the sex with. Ergo, why choose? She doesn't have to. She gets all of them. This is also a spicy, aged up Peter Pan Lost Boys Wendy reimagining. Aren't we blessed? Let's get the disclaimer out of the way. There's only one and it's always the same. This review will contain spoilers, opinions, and general shit talking. If that sounds awful to you, that's cool. This review just isn't for you. This review is also not for the author. Reviews are for readers. So content warnings are listed for the entire series on the author's website, and so they are the same for book 1, 2, 3, and 4, but just so we're clear, let me go over them again. Mental illness, smoking, graphic rough in public, groups, dubcon, dubious consent, graphic violence, graphic language, captive, captivity, degradation, submission, bondage, ropes, spanking, blood play, choking, consensual non-consent, and talk of essay. You ready for the synopsis? The Dark One has finally accepted me just in time for everything to change. Because Vane's brother, the crocodile, has just arrived in Neverland soil and he's not alone. He's brought with him members of the royal Darkland family and they want Vane's death shadow back at any cost. Of course, Peter Pan, Vane, Cass, and Bash, they're all familiar with war, but war isn't easy when love is on the line. I know those vicious Lost Boys would do anything to protect me, but what if I'm not the one who needs saving? As power shifts on the island and shadows are claimed, all 5 of us have to let go of who we were if we have any chance of becoming who we were destined to be. Okay, there's also a note. Their Vicious Darling is book 3 in the Vicious Lost Boys series. It is a dark romance reimagining of Peter and Wendy. All characters have been aged up. If you like your enemies to lovers with hot, ruthless, morally gray love interests, you'll enjoy Their Vicious Darling. You can expect an island with darkness and secrets and no true hero in sight, with a found family atmosphere and touch her and I'll unalive you vibes. The Vicious Darling ends on a cliffhanger. Okay. I guess it's fine. I don't know. I'm so tired of this series. I cannot wait to be done. Also, just a reminder that this little aged up notion is cute and all, but the canon lore of Peter Pan is that Neverland is an island full of disgruntled, misfit children who never want to grow up. Peter Pan being the leader of these forever boys and a forever boy himself. And aged up, sure, I get that. But in the first book, when Winnie first sets her whore eyes on him, she says that they have the look of a boy but the presence of a man. Aged up. Okay, why do they look like boys then? Let me calm down. Cliffhanger. On that note, let's talk about where we left off on the last cliffhanger, shall we? The band of idiots, complete with Winnie Whore, made their way to Hook's territory. A big scuffle broke out, including Hook, Smee, Pirates, Faye, and Tilly, the Fae Queen. Amidst that struggle, Vane yoinks the darling up and takes her back to the Nevertree and is like, barricade yourself inside the tomb until I get back. Enter Cherry. She lures Winnie down to her room instead under the guise of a parakeet being trapped inside, which I'm gonna go ahead and say that in the list of priorities, barricading yourself inside the tomb so you're safe from a pirate attack is much higher on the list for me than freeing a trapped parakeet in a room. We can do that later, but Winnie is dumb, no matter what this book tries to tell you. But it's not a parakeet that's trapped in Cherry's room, oh no. It's the Neverland Death Shadow. Cherry shoves her inside, locks the door behind her, and crosses her fingers that Winnie is no more. However, instead of the shadow just Winnie just claims that sumbitch for herself. What a twist. And remember, Pan told us a couple of times that no ordinary man can claim a shadow, but Winnie's a girl, and this is the girl power book. I don't know if anyone else has said that yet, but this is the girl power book.
Girl power.
Just don't look at the misogyny, and you'll make it out alive with that notion intact. And 2, it doesn't matter. Not a single breadcrumb that has been laid out for us has led us to anything well thought out, well organized, well planned, or fully fleshed out. So I doubt this will be explained, because nothing ever is. Meanwhile, back in Hook's territory, the fight carries on without Winnie, but Pan finally does get the upper hand, and he claims the shadow and reaches his final form yet again. Tilly sees this, tucks tail, and runs. Hook considers siding with Pan, but he's not sure yet. But he's also determined to get his sister Cherry back, which could not come at a better time because once the boys find out what Cherry did to Winnie, Cherry jello. With Pan's shadow now claimed and the rush of a victory flowing through all of them, the band of idiots ready themselves to return home to their darling girl. But they are in for quite a shock when they get back there, I tell ya. Okay, we caught up? Let's go. Prologue. Rock, aka the crocodile, aka Vane the Dark One's brother. Okay? Now, up until this point, we've only heard so much about old Crocodile, and I was excited last book when his name was mentioned because I love me some crocodile. We know he's Vane's brother. We know he and Hook are mortal enemies because he was in love with Wendy Darling, and Wendy Darling may have mixed it up with Hook, although Hook did kidnap her first, but you know, whatever. But we haven't gotten much else until now. I was excited, and I'm not anymore because I'm in the future. And the future is grim, so brace yourself. My preferred way to travel is with a royal family. Any will do, because royal families always travel in luxury. No shit. I'm glad you told me that. Yeah, I had no idea. So this tells me that we are yet again in for some rough roads ahead when it comes to the writing. 2/3 of those sentences aren't sentences. But it also tells us that he's a grifter who travels the 7 Isles by way of latching onto a royal family. And when he says any will do, it tells us that his loyalty is shaky or non-existent. Currently, he's with the Darkland family, which is the Ramaldi family. Enter the youngest Ramaldi sister, Amara, who is excitedly looking for Rock, but Rock, ever the cool cat, is eating peanuts and not bothered. She's excited to have found me, apparently. I can hear it in the upward lilt of her voice. I suppose being buried nearly balls deep in her last night might have had something to do with it. Oh, swell. He is banging his way through the royals too. No wonder they let him hang out. That's just swell. Also, I deserve financial compensation for any time I've had to scan my eyes across the line balls deep. It feels personal at this point. I am being attacked. Amara tells him that her brother Holt and sister Giselle request his company at dinner tonight. And we get this lovely little slice. Yum, yum, yum. Your sister just wants me to bend her over and pull her hair and make her feel like a dirty little whore. I abandon the peanuts and light a cigarette and then spread my arms out over the back of the ornate seat that is bolted to the ship's floor. The portside dining hall is only used on special occasions. But I'm special every day. Oh! Oh, shit! He's a special boy. Oh my God, I hate him. We aren't even to the word. This is the prologue, okay? But he sucks. After some corny flirting and dry humping, he agrees to go to dinner. I groan and pull out my pocket watch, checking the time. I'll have to leave early, I tell her. No exceptions. You and your watch. And then they make out a bit. While I know that the crocodile clocks are like this when it comes to Peter Pan lore, this is so heavy-handed. Subtlety was never on the menu. Trust me, this is not the last time we'll hear about this goddamn clock. Time skip, they are at dinner, and he approaches Giselle. Because I'm a dutiful asshole, I greet her with a kiss on her bare knuckles, and she blushes underneath the attention. 2 nights ago, I shot a rope. I'm gonna try that again, and I'm gonna get through it. 2 nights ago, I shot a rope of cum on her face. She wasn't blushing then. Oh, God. Rock continues to give us all the tea throughout dinner. Tea I did not ask for, but yeah, here we go. The word on the cobblestone streets is that not only has Rock banged Giselle, but Giselle might also be banging her brother Holt. We have a Lannister situation going on, and we love it. I have not fucked Holt, but Holt hates my fucking guts. Sometimes I fantasize about liberating him from his. So we've got at least one royal on the boat that he hasn't banged, so that's good to know. But shouldn't it be liberating his from him? Let's just move on. They eat and they chat about their plans upon arriving on Neverland. Rock tells us that absolutely under no circumstances would he ever betray his brother, ever. Which is good. Great even. Just snip that tension right out. Tension? No thank you from me. Forever. No thanks. If I was stupid, I might think that maybe this revelation is just a heavy-handed attempt to mislead us. Rock clearly has no loyalty to anyone, right? We learned that on the opening lines. But he's loyal to his brother no matter time, distance, or circumstance. This book has a Swiss cheese plot running through it, so I'm not falling for that one. Though I hope I'm wrong. I always want to be proven wrong, but you won't catch me holding my breath so hard I can't breathe. Also, remember how I said this is the girl power book? Okay, don't forget, don't you dare. Now, I know we just waded through a lagoon full of misogyny, but just hold your horses. Holt is just 1 year younger than Giselle, but he thinks he's the one in charge because he's a man. Clearly, Holt knows nothing about the might of women. See? He loves women! They all do! Except Holt, that stupid bitch. TikTok, time goes by. They're only on the first course. He tells them that it's best if he approaches his brother alone, and they're like, do you think we're stupid? I do. And they bicker back and forth on whether or not they can trust Rock. Time means nothing to blood. Time means everything, Holt. Speaking of which, I checked my pocket watch. I have an hour and 3. An hour and 3, you say? Pip. The rage that flooded my body almost immediately upon reading this. I didn't know we had a Regency gentleman on our hands. An hour and 3, says he. Do you also have 4 and 20 blackbirds baked into a pie, good sir? You can't be someone who says things like balls deep and rope of cum and then say, I have an hour and 3. Character continuity, no thanks. This isn't what I ordered. He continues with dinner, finalizing the plan, frantically checking his watch and refusing the last course and dipping out early. He internally recoils as he has to kiss Giselle's hand yet again. But he loves women, okay? He loves them and they're incredible. It's also worth noting that Rock is known across the 7 Isles as the devourer of men. I don't remember if I mentioned that in the other videos, but just in case, I wanted to pop that in here real quick. Devourer of men. What does that mean? I don't know. But he scoots on out of dinner. Tick-tock, tick-tock. It's almost too close. It's down to the wire. What is down to the wire? I don't know. But he grabs the servant girl, takes her to his chambers with him, and then just unhinges his jaw and swallows her at this point. It's not clear. It's not clear, but that's Rock. So that was fun. Chapter 1 belongs to Pan. So the band of idiots is on their way back to the Nevertree, buzzing from their victory, however temporary it may be. Vane asks Pan how he feels now that he has a shadow back, and Pan thinks to himself that not only does he have his shadow back, but he has Vane and his men and his darling, and he's all... But he's not gonna say that, not out loud to people. He's too cool for that. Instead, he says he's fine. And he can't wait to get back to their darling girl and probably like jackhammer her through a wall or something. Now, a clip from a movie came to mind instantly when I got to this part of the outline, but I'm not going to stitch it here because 1, it is disgusting. And 2, we're just starting. But for for those of you who want to know, all I can picture is the scene from Scary Movie when Anna Faris's character finally gives it up to her boyfriend. And if you know, you know. And if you don't, stay that way, I beg you. Like, it's so gross. And it's just, this is not a recommendation, but it is what I'm picturing. So I just say we move on. He asks Vane if he'll bang her too. But Vane's all mopey, sad boy about how he can't give her pleasure without pain. Shut up, Vane. Like, please. I get that he's wrestling with like the stupid death shadow that he doesn't even want. He only claimed to like avenge the death of his sister Judith? Lilith? I don't remember what her name is. Lainey. That's not right. Forget it. He's wrestling with this and the fact that he's a little depraved by default because his brother is the devourer of men. So what could that mean for Vane, you know? And I'm sure it's very complicated, but it's also stupid. Please be quiet. Pan, hearing Vane express concern for Winnie, but also calling her by her real name, has him being a little weird too.
It was always meant to be Vane. We will all have her, but Vane might get a part of her the rest of us can never see.
Oh, what are you looking at me for? I don't know what that means. I have not one single shred of an idea. I'm sure had the characterization and the relationship dynamics been better explored and written, I might have an inkling, but they weren't, so I don't. They're approaching the tree and they're met by a wolf. Odd.
Wolves haven't been this close since Pan lost his shadow.
The boys are confusion.
But Pan steps up to the wolf and he's like, get out of here, go on, get.
And the wolf's like, don't tell me what to do, and just heads to the treehouse. We have yet another chapter, brand new, chapter 2. New chapter, same POV, same exact moment, too. I hate this. Pan to the wolf is like, don't touch the darling, and he like blasts off to try to head him off. But spoiler alert, the wolf is no danger to Winnie, at least not yet. Not in this book, I don't know. He's one of her newest protectors. God, I hope she doesn't start banging him too. Pan approaches Winnie's room and hears whimpering from on the other side of the door. But when he comes in, Darling's fast asleep on the bed, the wolf at her side. It's Cherry that's curled up in the corner, crying her eyes out, which I can't say I blame her. I'd be fucking scared too, Cherry.
What the heck are you still doing here? Get out of here.
The rest of the boys finally catch up. They roll in, and Vane's like,
rah, why is the wolf here? Why isn't Winnie in the tomb like I said? Cherry, what the fuck?
Pan's like, go have a drink and cool off. He never cools off, does he? And he does. He goes. And the Fae princess approach the wolf. And the wolf is like, cool with them for no reason? Or is there a reason? Pan questions Cherry again because she's still actively crying. She tries to lie her way around it, and she's actually this close to giving us some truth, but the darling wakes up, kind of groggy. Cherry leaves the room. Best bet, Cherry, honestly, get out of there. Pan asks sleepyhead Winnie if she's okay, and she's like, yeah, I think so. Pan's like, come get me when you actually wake up. So he goes out to see the sunset since he hasn't seen one in so long. He leaves the Fae Princess and this wolf thing watching over her. Chapter 3 belongs to Cass. One of the twins, I still don't know much difference about him. One of them has longer hair. Couldn't tell you which one. He starts telling us a story, oh swell, about this wolf cub that they had when they were younger. His name was Balder, and their stupid bitch of a mother Tinkerbell hated Balder. And everything else, apparently. She seems like a miserable person. Excuse me. She hated the wolf, yeeted him into the lagoon, ripped Balder, right? However, this is the circumstance that eventually led the princess to meet Peter Pan for the first time. They were out looking for Balder, and they ran into him next to the lagoon, and Pan says, your bitch mother killed him. And that was it. After sharing this with us, Cass lights up a cigarette and starts chatting with his brother about what they're going to do about the Fae Court, and then asks him if he remembers Balder, and the wolf perks up. He's like, what? Did you call me? Almost like, here is Balder. They remind us of another line from their Nani. The lagoon gives and it takes. Also telling us that wolves are seen as symbols of strength and protection. And now after all these years, Balder has resurrected to protect the darling girl. Weird. The boys think so too and start talking about why the wolf might be protecting her.
It makes sense. Of course darling should be shielded from us. We treat her like our whore and the island is telling us to stop being pricks or the wolf will bite off our dicks. Don't be an idiot. Darling likes being treated like a whore, and the island shouldn't shame her for it.
I know that's right. Fuck this island for trying to shame our whore queen from living her slutty little dreams. This is so stupid. God damn it, it's dumb. They chat some more. Darling finally wakes up, for real this time, sees the wolf, and screams. Chapter 4 belongs to Winnie. Yay! So Winnie wakes up, has no memory of the night before, which is helpful for Cherry, so I hope she's on her way out of here right now. But she is shook by the presence of the wolf, and tells us that she can feel Vane in the house. Odd. When she said that, I can almost feel him. I got it. Did you get it? I just want to do a vibe check real quick. Did y'all understand what that meant? Like, I don't think she's reaching out to tangibly touch him, right? She feels him. Right, okay. Well, just in case you didn't get that, she goes on. It's like a distant hum of energy. Not unlike the hum I'd feel when Mom and I lived beneath a major power line in Wisconsin. I didn't need that over-explained to me. I did not. I did not need that. I understood it the first time. You donkey. Stop doing this. Anyway, she asks if the boys will go gather her some cloudberries so that they can make her some cloudberry pancakes because she's hungry. And they need to celebrate their victory in the shadow and all that. And then she wanders off to find Pan, the wolf following closely after her. She and the wolf have a little telepathic chat on the way to the lagoon when he's like, oh my God, did you just talk to me? And he's like, bitch, please. Hashtag weird. She approaches Pan and they talk about wolves and him having his shadow back. And they talk about how even though he has his shadow back, he'll always be afraid of potentially losing it again. I understand him in a way. It wasn't that long ago I was terrified of losing my mind. The power is another thing, and I can't help but think about the conversation I had with Vane about the mighty oak. Oh God. Not the mighty oak again. I had convinced myself I was the oak tree, resilient, determined. But knowing these powerful men, I realized I can barely understand the concept of power. I am the tree. I'm the tree with a bent, twisted trunk, trying to stretch herself to better light, so fragile that in every storm her boughs creak and her roots cling to the earth, praying it's enough to keep her in the ground. The bare minimum is all I know. I have never been powerful. This is book 3. Okay, so I've already had disdain running through my veins for this child the entire time. But if you want to just have a direct line from me to hating a character, this is the way to do it. I'm not special. I have never been special. What do I know about being special? I'm the most unspecial person ever. I'm nothing. Anyway, they lay on the beach being dumb together, and Winnie is like, what's that sound that sounds like a clock? And Peter Pan pulls the pocket watch out of his pocket. So it is a clock. Winnie is so bright. On the back, it has an inscription that reads, The Bone Society, which I will bet money we will never fully understand because it will never be fully explained to us. Apparently, they're a society that make all the clocks for all the islands. Why are they called the Bone Society? Pan doesn't know. And he never asked because time means nothing to him. What a little juxtaposition we have there between Pan and Rock, because to Rock, time is everything. And to Pan, time means nothing. I wonder if it'll ever amount to anything. I'll go ahead and let you know because I'm in the future. It doesn't. Pan gets all icky, mushy, gross and says he missed her. And she's like, you're romantic now? Did you miss me more than the sun? And he's like, in the light, I'll treat you like a queen. But in the dark, you will be my whore. To have you without my shadow was a divine treat. He says against my mouth and then kisses me again, nipping at my bottom lip. To have you with my shadow might very well undo me. So they start tearing at each other's clothing. Pan enters her on the beach, which is just a nightmare, if you ask me. But then he pulls out real quick and whooshes her off to the treehouse so that he can recruit Vane to join in on the fun. It's a party, after all. They ping-pong their way through the house and crash into several pieces of furniture along the way, which I think is meant to give that same energy of like desperation and want that this scene from The Notebook gave us. But instead, I just picture this. They find Vane. They ask him to join. He does. And the chapter ends with Vane entering her as Pan watches. Chapter 5 is Pan. He's watching Vane blast off into the Darling, and he loves it. This is like his new favorite thing. Vane's in the pink. Pan comes around and goes in the mouth. Darling bouncing on might rival Renaissance art in its beauty. I disagree. But okay, rope sitting in her mouth. Thank you, Pan. And then he requests that she sit on his face. End of chapter. What the was the point in this chapter? Chapter 6, Winnie. She is having a good old time grinding her bits all on Pan's face and having Vane as a chaser. Winnie arrives, hurrah. But Winnie also starts to feel a little funny. She hears a voice saying, let me in, not by the hair of our chinny chin chin. He didn't say that part. But then boom, she passes out, hits the deck. Chapter 7 belongs to Pan. Vane says, something's wrong. No shit, dumb fuck. 3 of them are all still naked. The twins show back up with a basket full of cloudberries, and they're like, oh man, no invite to the bang sesh? What's up with Winnie? They cover her with a blanket. The wolf finally shows back up, and they're all like, what do we do? And Pan's like, go get Smee. The fuck? Chapter 8 belongs to Bash. Bash is now keeping busy in the kitchen while they wait for Smee to return. Keeping my hands occupied is just the distraction I need. I've always loved being in the kitchen. It's about the only thing I inherited from my mother. Though she never actually loved it. What? What? So you didn't get it from your mother then? My mom doesn't like coffee. Or me, really. But we're just going to stick with the coffee for this comparison. She never had a taste for it. I, on the other hand, love coffee. So let's build ourselves a sentence, shall we? I've always loved coffee. It's about the only thing I inherited from my mother. Well, she never actually loved it. If I wanted to give the benefit of the doubt, which at this point I do not, I have no more doubt of benefits to give, I'd say that Tinkerbell was good in the kitchen, even though she despised being in there. He got his talent for being in the kitchen from his mother, even though she hated doing it. And that is what Bash meant. But that's not what he said. It might be what he meant, but it's not what he said, and I'm purely going off the text here. Anyway, he gets back to cooking and chatting with Cass about what to do with the throne now, and how it would be fun if there was just peace on Neverland and they could all move into the castle. Pan enters the room and somehow hears them having some of their Fae language secret talk and tells them that it's a ridiculous notion. And they're like, since when can he hear us? Is it the shadow? Who knows? But there goes our secret chat between the bros. Vane returns with Smee. Smee is like, what were y'all doing before she passed out? And Pan's like, I don't see how that matters. Good thing Winnie couldn't answer. Fucking! Smee produces smelling salts and wakes Winnie up like that. I am so glad that they had an expert show up to do this. Never would have thought of that on their own. Probably because they're children forever. Chapter 9 is Winnie. Now I know what you must be thinking right now. Nothing's happened. Why is nothing happening? And to that I ask you, has anything been happening this whole time? Except for us bonding and growing closer? Has anything come of this? Is there anything of substance to note? Don't think so. Anyway, Winnie wakes up and the boys start bickering about, go get her clothes. No, you get her water. Don't tell me what to do. I'm not leaving her side. All that's going on. And Smee is like really looking at Winnie. She's like, you okay? And she's like, I think so. And then Smee, looking directly into Darling's eyes, is like, all these powerful men blind to power when it looks them right in the fucking eyes. So she clearly knows that Winnie has the shadow. Did I forget to mention? I think I did. The book starts out with a quote from the original Peter and Wendy book by J.M. Barrie that says, Wendy, one girl is more use than 20 boys. Further cementing that this is the girl power book of the series. Don't look at the misogyny, okay? Eyes right here. And see, there can be a girl power moment in a book that's filled with misogyny, but in order for that to work, the misogyny has to be dispelled. The men can't continue to benefit and not have to correct their misogyny the whole time. There's no character growth. And so let's not talk about this. Smee finishes up with Winnie and asks for the return of Cherry, which is apparently a deal Vane made to get her to come in the first place. How many deals are these boys not going to follow through on? Like, I'd want to destroy them too. They don't honor anything they ever say. They are children though, remember? Aged up. Anyway, they tell her we can't give her back yet. We gotta throw her a going away party. Duh. The pirate girl that you've been nothing but hateful and cruel to this entire time? 3 books of being just completely shitty to this girl. But of course she can't leave without a proper goodbye party. Makes all the sense in the 7 Isles. Cherry comes in, confirms this with Smee, and Smee agrees and leaves. Upon seeing Cherry, though, Winnie has this, like, foggy recollection of, like, a parakeet. Oof! Darn it! Thinking is hard. It's right there and I can't get it. Vane knows that Cherry knows more than she's saying, though. So Cherry leaves and he starts after her and Pan's like, don't, Dark One. She's hiding something. Smee said Darling's fine. You're gonna believe a pirate who's our enemy? Smee is not our enemy, Pan argues. She's probably the most neutral party on the island. What? Seriously, what? Smee, Hook's right-hand woman, gal, is the most neutral on the island? It's never explained. Anyway, Pan's like, Vane, chill and leave Jerry alone. End of chapter. Chapter 10 belongs to Rock. Woo! They're pulling up to Neverland and the royals are commenting on how there are no cars, no transportation at all. These people just walk everywhere. Barbaric. Which is weird for many reasons, but mainly because in a few chapters, Winnie visits town and comments on hearing the sound of wagon wheels over cobblestones. So while wagons are one of the oldest forms of transportation, they are in fact transportation. But who cares? Not me. Definitely not me. Anyway, they head off to meet They head off to meet Tilly at her palace. They're stopped at the gate and asked to surrender their weapons. They're like, what? And Amara's like, come on, guys. Would we let just anyone into our palace? And Holt says, we let him in. And then Rock graces us with this delightful little line. They let me into more than just the palace. They eventually relent and they head inside. Giselle and Holt are still bickering. Amara's flirting with Rock. Rock is eating peanuts. God, he love him some peanuts. They help stave off his appetite. Tilly approaches looking fab, and Rock, the president of the He-Man Woman Haters Club, tells us, women fascinate me. They're almost always underestimated, which makes them potentially some of the most lethal opponents. Fascinating. Girl power! I'm telling you. Did we hear the they let me into more than the palace line? No. Eyes right here, okay? Women fascinate him. They exchange the usual pleasantries upon seeing someone for the first time. Everyone bows to Tilly except for Rock. He does eventually bow, but only because he wanted to. And then the fake queen is pleased with this, as if by bowing to her, I've relinquished something. People like the queen don't realize that by giving them what they want, I take something in return. Pride is most everyone's greatest weakness. That and fucking. I've watched grown men lose their minds over a hole. I lose my mind over two things. Blood and unshelled peanuts. Rock eventually is like, hey, Tills, you promised me secrets. Hop to it. To which she's like, first we need to discuss you helping me defeat Peter Pan. And they go back and forth. Why should I? Blah. Finally, Tilly's like, Pan has two weaknesses, Vane and his darling. News to Rockadilly. A new darling? There's a new darling on the island. This sends Rock into a reminiscent spiral about Wendy, and we're just blessed beyond belief. Honestly, this is just so fun. If I'm endlessly fascinated by women. Rock, what do you mean if? I was in total awe of Wendy Darling. Why, you ask? Don't you worry. He's gonna tell us, and I recommend holding on to something solid. She's the only person to ever beat me in a game of chess. In the beginning, I fucked around with her because I knew Peter Pan wouldn't, but in the end, I realized she was around with me because she could. I wanted to hate her, even more so when she denied me and told Peter Pan to take her back to her insufferable mortal land. But eventually I came to respect her for the magic she wielded over me. There are not many people I would allow to put a collar around my neck, but Wendy Darling would have been an exception. This is so underwhelming, I could cry. I might cry. I am crying. Anyway, he asks if this darling is anything like Wendy, Winnie's great-great-grandmother who he was in love with, remember? Who he presumes to be dead. To which the queen replies, she's feisty, smart too. Is she? She did help Peter Pan get his shadow back. Did she? From my recollection, Winnie's just been banging her way around the island. And when Tilly attempted to lobotomize her in book 1, Vane put a stop to that. So coincidentally, she woke up the next day out of a dream that showed her the exact location of Pan's shadow. And the entire time, the little brownie dudes and Tilly knew where the shadow was anyway. They did not attempt to get it or relocate it or hide it somewhere else. But sure, Winnie is so smart and so helpful. I mean, just like the original Wendy in the magical sense, because she beat Rock at chess. They are so similar, actually. Wow. Stunning. Rock is wandering around the room while everybody else is talking, and he goes to the backside of the throne and notices that there's an emblem etched onto the backside. It reads, The Myth Makers. And just like the Bone Society, no more context or information is given. There are apparently several societies like this on the Isles. The Mythmakers, Death's Hand, the Ancient Order of Shadows, and one that Rock personally belongs to, the Bone Society. Not one more ounce of information is given though, so we love it. Also, we're in book 3 of 4 in this series, and this is the first we've heard about these societies. And societies tend to have a lot of moving parts to them. Foundational stuff that we would need in order to fully understand what these societies are. And since I'm here in the future, speaking to you now, I know that there's no more information in this book either. So am I to believe that there's enough room to cover all of this in the 4th book that has 226 pages? I guess that these are secret societies.
So it's like a secret society. That's one way of looking at it. Cool.
And when Nikki St. Crow says secret, she means secret.
Secret society. Secret society.
Anyway, he eats some more peanuts and he's like, what's the secret, Tills? Out with it. Spit it out. And boy, does she. She lets him know that through generations of rooting around the darling's brains, this has led her to be able to uncover some of Pan's memories as well. Somehow, I don't know, but one of those secrets that she uncovered was that Pan never returned Wendy to the mortal realm. He demands to be shown this memory, so she shows him. He watches through the memory that Tilly is sharing with him as Pan leaves her. He can feel her panic as she screams, "Get Rock, tell him to come back for me," and he is mad. Upon completing the memory, he then asks the question I've been asking for weeks. How did the darling line continue if she's stranded here? Apparently, Wendy told Pan that she already had a kid that she had back in the mortal realm, so there was no need to return her because she wanted to stay here with Rock. But that was a lie. She was, however, pregnant when she was abandoned. So that would mean someone got her pregnant. But it can't be Rock because whatever he is, fertile he is not. So that would mean Hook! I must amend my list. I will lose my mind over 3 things. Blood, unshelled peanuts, and revenge! Chapter 11 is Cherry. Uh-oh. I'm shook that Cherry's still just walking around, alive and moderately well. She is lucky that Winnie doesn't remember and that the boys are dumb. Otherwise, Cherry jello. So we catch up with Cherry in her room, guzzling down a bottle of wine. Can't say I blame her. She's planning on escaping, slinking out. Don't even pack a bag. Forget it. Just leave. And that is what I would do. But Bash comes into the room to check on her and to see what request meal she wants for her going away party. He will cook her one thing, so tell me what it is. That's so sweet to be nice to her after 2 books of utterly despising her. It's literally precious. She goes on to tell us that while she might have been in love with Vane all these years, the twins, specifically Bash, made it a point to come by and check on her and make her feel safe. Lay with her, hold her while she cried, project illusions that calmed her onto the ceiling. Which is news to me. But hey, cut it out. What do we say when we encounter something stupid in a dark romance novel? Say it with me. It doesn't have to make sense. Good job. Anyway, honeysuckle tarts is what she wants. I kind of do too. They get into a little spat when Bash says that it's probably for the best that she's going back to Hook. And she's like, I've never belonged anywhere. You think I want to go there? Blah, 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 yada, yada. He goes and comforts her, and she is literally this close to telling him what happened with Winnie when Vane. And he is not looking happy. Come with me right now. And she does. He asks her again to explain why Winnie wasn't in the tomb, and she's like, and she tries to lie, but she's absolutely terrible at it. What a pity. She starts to tell the dumb parakeet story again when, boom, someone else shows up. Rock tackles Vane. Rock is here. How lovely for everyone. He's introduced to Cherry, and Cherry's like, I've never seen my brother so afraid of someone as the crocodile. Rock starts like leering at Cherry, and Vane's like, cut it out. Rock's like, she's gorgeous though. You know how I feel about freckles and redheads. And a piece of me died. Vane's like, she's Hook's sister. And Rock's like, all the better. And he leans down to Cherry, and he's like, hey Cherry, will you take me to Peter Pan and his new darling? And she does. Chapter 12 is Winnie's. Winnie is chilling in the lagoon on Pan's orders because the lagoon has like healing properties and whatever. But he's sitting on the beach because, in his words, the lagoon and I have an understanding. What understanding? I guess it's just he doesn't go in. I guess I understand. She's in there. Her stomach growls. Pan's like, you hungry?
I could eat. We could linger for a while, I suggest. I'm hungry for something else, too.
You're always hungry for darling, but you will never be able to keep up with me if you don't feed yourself something other than dessert.
When you say dessert, are you referring to Lost Boink or pancakes?
Ugh. She gets out of the lagoon and he tosses her over his shoulder and proclaims,
It's time I show my face in Darlington Port and remind them who rules this land.
He and Vane just unalived a bunch of pirates there in a book ago, right? Did they not? But sure, yeah. Show your face, scare the peasants, feed Winnie. Check, check, check. They roll into town barefoot and probably fucking filthy. Ugh. There's this part about the wagons that I talked about earlier. The dirt path from the woods connects to the road that goes north and south, but across it is a cobblestone road that splits downhill into town. Darlington Port, I guess. You guess. It's literally where he said you were going. Remember how Tilly said Winnie was smart?
I could hear the rattle of wagon wheels over the stones, people shouting and laughing, the toll of a distant bell, the clashing of metal on metal, and the smell of burning iron. Great.
Winnie then realizes that they're both barefoot and asks if he has any money so that she could buy some shoes, to which he just produces a bunch of gold coins out of nowhere because a perk of the shadow is he can make anything appear. They go to the shoe store and with the help of Pan and the wolf, because of course the fucking wolf is here, she decides on a pair of sturdy brown leather boots that lace up. They're good for running because you should always be prepared to run. And if you think that's dumb, it's not nearly as dumb as the author thinks we are.
If Peter Pan was intimidated before, now with his shadow, it's impossible to find the right words to describe how it feels to be near him.
Okay, that's fine. You don't have to.
Like trying to describe the way a hurricane feels 2 days before it reaches land. The air is different and you can feel the impending destruction, maybe in your belly, maybe in your soul. But you can't touch it with your hands, so it doesn't feel real until the carnage is laying around your feet.
Okay, that was good. I'm glad that you shared that.
Peter Pan is like that, like a hurricane.
Duh-huh! Yeah, no, I got it. Impossible to find the right words, you say. Then goes on to use, so many words to do a mediocre job of explaining it and then follows it up with,
that's Pan. Pan is the hurricane. Did you get that Pan is the hurricane?
We got it, Winnie. Pipe down.
But she doesn't.
Yeah, she keeps telling us more about the city.
There's energy here. I've never been to New Orleans or Bourbon Street, but I imagine that this is what it must feel like, surrounded by buildings that feel old while the people and their music fill up the cracks and crevices with laughter and revelry.
If you've never been... Okay. They enter a tavern called Ox and Maid, and Winnie's like, I'm not eating ox. I was hoping for a burger and fries. She's so smart. Everyone freezes when they enter. Chapter 13, Pan. No one drops to their knees fast enough for him, so he has to declare his shadow found. And his reign is true. Then they start to hit the deck. That's more like it. A little bitch. Now we have one of the goofiest scenes in all of the series so far. I hope you're ready. I don't even know how to preface it, so let's just go. The waitress shows up and asks for their order. And of course,
The king will have dark liquor, any will do.
I swear to God.
And for the darling, burger and fries? French fries?
Matchsticks.
Right, of course.
And a meat sandwich. What do you like on your burgers?
Lettuce?
We don't put leaves on our food here.
Pickles?
That we do have.
Ketchup?
Tomato syrup.
Tomato syrup? What the hell is that?
It's sweet like your ketchup, just trust me.
Fun! A meat sandwich with pickles and tomato syrup.
Coming right up. So now we wait on the meat sandwich with pickles and tomato syrup and a side of matchsticks. Points for creativity, I guess. The pickles didn't get a fun name? No, little green meanies or nothing? God, this caused me respiratory duress. Okay, I almost choked on my bubbly brew with a twisty slice. My dark carbon storm with citrus crystals. My midnight potion with a pinch of limestone. It's a Diet Coke with a true lime. They chat while waiting for the meat to arrive. Not that meat. And Pan finally tells us about the other islands. Neverland, Winterland, Summerland, Darkland, Everland, Lostland, Pleasureland, No Sugarland. She can't love you like me. How sad. Winnie's like, hold the phone. Pleasureland? I have to go there. He's like, chill, the answer is no. The waitress returns with the food and Winnie starts just scarfing it down. Holy berries and balls. She doesn't say that, but I can never let that go. They're so good. Yummy though. She wants to thank the waitress by name. Let's play Name That Shit. What do you think old waitress girlie's name is? I'll wait. Darlena. Apparently adopting the Darling surname and making it into other first names is like something they do. It dates back ages. How special. Chapter 14 is Rock. Well, Peter and the new Darling are nowhere to be found. Cherry and the twins skedaddle, so now Vane and his brother Rock can have a brotherly love moment between the Dark Ones. They have a drink because alcohol is always on the menu. I mean, Peter Pan just went on a rant about how your mortal world feeds you processed garbage and poison. No lettuce, no leaves here. In the jungle of Neverland. But alcohol is always on the menu. They're discussing Wendy and Vane's like, quit your bawling. It's not like you were in love with her anyway. And Rock decides to go low with a, would you have left Lainey? Lainey! I knew it! I did not know it. It's their sister. Tension is high. And finally, Vane is like, I'm not letting whatever plan you have come to fruition. Not through me. I've clearly chosen my side. And when he doesn't back down, Rock lets him know that he's traveling with the Romaldi family and they will get their shadow back at any cost. And Vane's like, the shadow doesn't belong to anybody. One person, it belongs to the island. And Rock is like, I'll give you 2 days to give it back. Or I'll let the time run out. Mic drop. Snap, not the time running out. Oh God, I still don't know what it means. So pick the mic back up. Let's try it again. No, we're done? Okay. Chapter 15 is Pan. Darling is hoovering this food like it's Lost Boy dick. And Pan leans in to start discussing her care when boom, Romaldi family rolls in. And then Pan starts connecting the dots. Tilly summoned the crocodile. The crocodile's from Darkland. Romaldis are Darkland's royalty. And they saw it as an opportunity to get their shadow back. I'm so glad he connected them for us too. The energy shifts and it makes Pan think that the wolf is back. But oh no, what's this? He can feel the Darling? Another dot has been connected. Well done, Peter. Good form. Slow form, but good form. So now he knows that she has the shadow. Giselle approaches and like shoves her boobs all up in his face. Pan bristles. And Winnie is cosplaying as Ringu. Giselle's like, who's this whore? And starts to offer herself to Peter when all of a sudden, ka-ching! And he just casually stabs Giselle in the neck. Damn! Also, why are you so offended at people calling you by your name? You are Winnie Whore. We've been through this. Amara starts to draw her sword, but Winnie restrains her in half a second, and then the blackness starts seeping from Winnie to Amara, ultimately unaliving her. Winnie's eyes are black. Oh no! And Rock shows up, pulls a pew-pew, and demands she let Amara go. It's too late though. The darkness has consumed Amara. May she rest. And then Pan lunges at Rock and they have a little scuffle behind the bar. Rock punches Pan in the face and then yeets on out of there. Pan shortly follows him. Rock grabs Winnie by the hair and like pins her down, knife to the throat. But she's hulked out though. So she quickly overpowers him and stabs him in the throat too. What the fuck? Pan and Winnie run. Chapter 16, Pan again. He grabs onto her and they take to the sky. Trying to get back to the Never Tree without alerting anyone in the Never Tree so he can like clean her up and try to figure out how to tell him that she unalived his brother and has the shadow. But Vane's in the library and kind of cuts him off and he's like, what's going on? What are you doing? What's up? What's this? What's all this about?
What's going on? What's happening? What's that?
Holy shit, is that blood?
And Pan's like, leave me alone, and disappears and locks them in the tomb. She's laying down and slowly coming out of it. She's like, I feel funny. Yeah, no shit, says both I and Pan. She goes back to sleep. He's watching over her. He's trying to figure out like how the heck this happened. How does she have the shadow? More than that though, how is she not writhing in extreme pain? The shadow is not easy to hold on to. But while he's juggling all these ideas, he cuts his eyes over and notices that Winnie is cosplaying now as another horror superstar, Reagan from The Exorcist.
It's the power.
He makes the dumb decision to shout her name. She wakes up, freaks out, starts to plunge. Pan catches her, of course.
And she's like, what's going on? And he tells her, you have the Neverland Death Shadow. And she's like, what?
Chapter 17 is Hook. What a shift, huh? So his arm is throbbing. So that's how he knows the crocodile is near. Kind of like how when my knees start to hurt, I know that it's about to rain. And he is in a panic about it. Smee tries to get him to lay down and breathe and rest, but there can be no rest, Smee! Smee's like, he's not here for you. This isn't about you. And Hook's like, he clearly came to torture me for kidnapping his dear Wendy. He contemplates a little bit on how maybe she was playing both of them to kind of pit them against each other. But oh well, she's dead now. We'll never know. And Hook asks Smee how they can unalive Rock. But then Rock comes a knocking. Oh, I'm sorry about that. A bloody crocodile comes spilling into their room. Apparently the crocodile had nowhere else to go because after Pan and the new darling unalived half of the Romaldi clan, Holt is going to think he set them up. So he came to Hook. Makes all the sense in the world. He considers just letting him die there, but that would be bad form. So he lifts him up and puts him on the bed instead.
But you know what else is bad form?
Smee follows and watches me struggle with his weight. He's all solid muscle, corded with it from shoulder to bicep to forearms. Thick veins run over his tattooed hands. I imagine what he might look like shirtless and immediately regret the thought. Shirtless with my blade protruding from his ribs. That's more like it.
I beg your utmost pardon, James.
Is this you thirsting for a sip of the crocodile?
And just like that, I have a new direction I want this to go. He decides they may need him, so they nurse him back to health instead of unaliving him. Smee is not a fan of this idea, and neither is Hook. Or so he says! Chapter 18 belongs to Winnie. Winnie is still in denial about the situation at large, and so Pan just tells her everything. She still doesn't believe him, though. Horrified by what she supposedly did to Giselle, Amara, and Rock, Vane's brother, she barrels out of the room, covered in blood, and comes face to face with the rest of the group, and they're like, why is she covered in blood? And Vane approaches her and tells her to start talking, and what she does instead is just slap him in the face. I know what you're all thinking. This would be a great time to dick her down. And now that we all agree, let's go. They do their little edgy foreplay, and he tells her to run, so she does. Chapter 19 is Bash. I'm exhausted and so is Bash, but Vane tells everyone, whoever finds her first gets to pick a hole. Listen, while I appreciate a fun little spicy game, the point of playing a game that has a prize is to make the prize valuable, right? I'm not saying that this wouldn't be a fun little game to play with consenting adults. A grown-up, consensual, spicy hide and seek with an intense prize across the finish line. But Winnie and all of her holes have been open for business this whole time. That's like telling me that if I go outside, hike 3 miles, search high and low, I might be able to find some peanut butter M&Ms. Like, I'm good, bro. I'll just catch her on the next round. Why would I go through all that work when I already have it there in my hand? Please. But the Lost Boys are almost as dumb as Winnie, so they are all in for this. Vane and Pan take to the sky, and the de-winged Fae Princes have to go on foot. And at first they're a little cranky about it, but you can't see the tracks from the air, so they have the upper hand. Shocking to no one, because I'm not invested enough at this point to care. The twins find her first. They blindfold her and start to take her to their own little pleasure island, or whatever. Bash takes her mouth, and Cass gets her. How perfectly boring. And this just proves my point. Vane and Pan literally just did this. They just did this in chapter 4 with her. This is not a prize. This is a Tuesday. They all arrive. How sweet. And just when Winnie is talking about how much she enjoyed it, Vane swoops down and launches into the sky. Chapter 20. Winnie. They're airborne, and she's chest to chest with the Dark One. And then Pan comes whooshing up and sandwiches her in between them. Fun for all. Vane goes in first, and I thought we were getting some deviation from stereotypical positioning. But Pan's like, shall we fill her up together? And he just slides alongside, and he just slides right. The prize was to pick a hole. They all picked the same one, with one exception for the, okay. I just think it's because Pan wanted to touch things with Vane, but whatever. They bang it out midair. Chapter 21, Winnie. Why? Starting a new chapter should not be used every time something exciting happens. If it did, this book would be 912 chapters long. Please! Anyway, same setup, same circumstances. They're banging it out in the middle of the air. But Winnie hears a voice saying, "Let me in so we can enjoy this as one." And she's like, "Bet." So Shadow slides into place. Vane now realizes that Winnie has the Shadow.
Don't stop, Pan orders. It's better for the Shadow if we just let her take what she needs.
Yes, me, Dark One. Make me your little slut.
You're suspended midair, sandwiched between two mythological beings that you did not think existed, these forever boy aged up men children. And they are having a sausage party in your box.
And you also are currently harboring the Neverland Death Shadow, and that's the best you could do?
They all arrive, I think. I don't know, leave me alone. And they head back to the treehouse where all of the guys gather to give her aftercare. They're feeding her, they're giving her something to drink, which is wild. How is the aftercare in this book, comparatively to all the other books that I've read, how is this the best one? They feed her pancakes and discuss the Shadow when he's like, "Smee knew ages ago." And Pan's like,
Of course she knew and kept it from me. Harumph.
which goes against him saying she was the most neutral person on the island. I don't know where the logic is. Whoever finds the logic gets to pick a hole. And nothing was ever found. We all died. The end. Balder shows up after having snacked on a little rabbit that he caught. Well done, Balder, I guess. I don't know. They discuss the Shadow and how to get it out of her. But first, how did it get into her? Then Winnie remembers Cherry. After having a brief conversation with the Shadow within herself, whether to tell or not, she spills the beans. Rest in peace, Cherry. You were a real one. Team Freckles forever. Chapter 22 belongs to Hook. I can't seem to take my eyes off him. Damn, Hook, brother, calm down. But he doesn't, though. He's too busy noticing his jaw, his lips, his nose, his eyes that are open and watching him leer at him. This is the only romance I care about in this book. He brings Rock some water, and Rock fills him in on all the stuff that went down at the tavern. They chat a bit about Wendy, and she liked me, so she liked me better. And then they, tussle a little bit. Smee shows up. Rock asks for blood, and it's better when it's volunteered. So Smee, grabs one of their drunken crewmates and brings him in so Rock can drain him of his blood. How strange. At this point, I was ready to be mad if this man turned out to be a vampire. But since I'm in the future, I know that that's not what he is. After he is flirting to take on a summer afternoon, he finds Hook again and tells him that he needs to go get his sister quickly because she is clearly terrified of something and to be wary of all of them. Chapter 23 belongs to Cherry. God, get out of there.
My bag is packed. There's no sense in even saying goodbye. None of them will miss me after all. Bitch, what about your BFF bash?
Doesn't matter because Vane's waiting on her before she has a chance to leave. He grabs her by the hair and pulls her down the hallway, all the others watching and doing nothing to help her. So weird. So no going away party then. He slams her down. She tries to get away, saying she didn't mean to, which is true because what she meant was for the darling to meet her doom. But oops! And then Vane tells her to run because he's going to effing unalive her. Brutal. Chapter 24 is Cherry also. She starts running. I don't know why we needed a new chapter for that. Anyway, she's running. Smee just lunges out of nowhere and stabs Vane in the chest with a shiny dagger with a bunch of glowing emblems carved into the side of it. Most neutral on the island. Cherry begs her not to kill Vane, and Smee's like, "Get out of here." She does. How incredible. Definitely needed this to be its own chapter for sure. For sure. Chapter 25 is Cass. Winnie is freaking out since Vane is apparently not healing and also not Fae, so she can't use her little belief clapping to bring him back from the brink like she did with Bash last book. Rats! Finally, they're like, "Take him to the lagoon." And Winnie's like, "I volunteer!" And she takes him. Yeah. Chapter 26 is Rock. Rock is eating peanuts and Hook is pacing the floor and they're bickering like an old married couple. They discuss what their preferred outcomes to this war would be. It's dumb, don't get excited. But then Rock is like, "We should team up and kill Pan." And Hook is like, "He can't be killed." But can he? Rock says, "Maybe no one's tried the red weapon yet." Hook smiles at this. God help me! There's the slightest uptick to the corner of his mouth, and I can't help but sink my gaze into it the way his lips curl over one another. A tasty fucking snack. A snack, you say? "You have such a weapon?" he asks. I give a light slap to the cheek, and he growls at the base of his throat. "You're looking at it, Captain. I am, after all, the devourer of men."
So that's the new plan, I guess.
Smee and Cherry return, covered in blood, of course, as per usual. And Rock knows immediately that it's Vane's blood. Smee confirms that she did not unalive him, but it's gonna take him a while to heal. Cherry explains how Winnie got the shadow, and Rock's like, perfect, she doesn't have control of it. Now is the time to strike. And Cherry tells him the same thing that Tilly told him. If you want to get to Pan, his weaknesses are Vane and Winnie. Cherry leaves, Hook follows her, leaving Smee and the crocodile alone to have like a little quid pro quo with one another. Rock has plenty of questions, so he begins. Did you know Wendy was pregnant? Did you know that she was still here? Does James know that the darling girl with Pan is his great-great? And Smee cuts him off and explains that Hook cares so deeply that he would have gone and gotten himself killed trying to save her. And Pan would lose his shit if he knew that the darling line was also the Hook line sinker. The best case scenario, she claims, was to rescue the baby and return it to the mortal land, which she did. She said she promised Wendy that she would keep her safe and hidden. Obviously, she did not do that well because Pan found her and all of her descendants for generations. Well done, Smee. Riveting, honestly. And it honestly is. Like, truth be told, I think that this is a little exciting for me that all of this stuff is starting to come together and unfold. But I already know that it's not going to be nicely, like, resolved and tied up in a bow, all the loose ends, all the questions answered. The writing just isn't there. World and the plot and the stories and the characters just aren't there. Almost, but not quite, so color me disappointed. Preemptively disappointed already. Chapter 27 is Hook. He finds Cherry in her old room, which he kept the exact same ever since he traded her off to Peter Pan and the Lost Boys. Seems odd to keep the room the same since you chose to trade her instead of trading Smee, your own sister. Oh, grief is weird, so fine, sure. He gives us a little bit of a backstory about their abusive father. I don't know, I skimmed this part. She woefully asks why they continue to love people who hurt them and then expresses that she wants to go home. Even though they don't have a home, she wants a home to go home to. And he promises that he's going to get that for her. And she says that if he breaks that promise, she will never forgive him. Add it to the list of things I would never forgive him for, but okay. Chapter 28 is Rock. When are Hook and Rock gonna bang it out? Tick-tock, fellas! See what I did there? Holt shows up and launches at Rock. Traitor! Rock's like, chill the fuck out or I'm gonna eat you. So Holt chills the fuck out. Tilly comes to the front. Of course, that bitch is everywhere. They all discuss how now is the time to attack because Vane is wounded. Cherry pops in to offer some insight. They'll be at the lagoon if he's wounded. So they head out with a plan to storm the beach while Vane is weak and submerged in the lagoon. Holt has some kind of magical rock around his neck that I guess is serving as his tether so that he can take the shadow from Vane and reclaim it since it's rightfully his or whatever. Makes sense. Pan did it, so why not? Rock plans to steal the rock. So many rocks. At this point, I just want a happy ending for Rock, Hook, and Cherry. That's it. That's all. That's all I want. Chapter 29 is Winnie, but I feel like this would be a great time to show you my new shirt. I designed it. I drew it. It says stay weird. It's got all this little weird imagery on it. It's one of the coolest shirts that I've ever made, and I really like the way it came out. I've got some items with this design up in the shop, so if you want, you can go check that out. Also, if you haven't subscribed to me and you're here and you're having a good time, what's going on? What gives? I'm just kidding. Do what you want, but, you know, I gotta do the plugs. Chapter 29 is Winnie. She's been out in the lagoon floating with Vane for hours now. He's doing good, not great, and it's not going fast enough. Why are you not healing faster? Winnie tells him, you should ask the lagoon for help, and he's like, I'd rather die than beg. Girl, please. He goes on to tell her that if the shadow does leave, he's not sure what will be left, and that whatever his brother is, he and I are the same. So I guess he's also a devourer of men. Cute. Pan is chilling on the beach with the wolf, but then Pan and Winnie are both like, do you hear that? And it's the sound of dozens of heartbeats storming the beach. Vane still hasn't healed yet, but that doesn't stop the countless fae and pirate foot soldiers from descending on them, with Rock, Tilly, and Hook in tow. Everybody, rah! Winnie and Vane are just bobbing out there like corks in the freaking water. The twins show up too, and Vane's like, we gotta get out of here. And he picks Winnie up and attempts to fly her to safety, but instead, he falters, slams into the side of Marooner's rock because the bitch is still injured. Hello? Holt and his men corner Winnie and Vane on the rock, and Holt proceeds to use his magical rock, so many rocks, to yoink the shadow from Vane. And I know what you're thinking. Why isn't Winnie hulking out right now? This is the girl power book. She should destroy everyone. Great question. The shadow is like, I'll just sit this one out. If you're going to help us, now would be the time, I say to the shadow. But it's like it's gone dormant. Hello? Do something, I tell it. Not my battle, it says. Holt does succeed in getting the shadow into the little stone thing, and Vane slumps over. Chapter 30 is Hook. So we're back on the beach, which is now quaking from Tilly's magical fae illusion that she's done. But the battle rages on. Hook is like, any day now to the devourer of men. But apparently it doesn't work like that. I don't know how much time I have left. Is there enough time for y'all to bang it out real quick while we wait? Sadly, instead of doing that, they double team Pam, but not in a fun way. While they are doing that, Rock finally morphs into whatever he is. He redirects back to Hook. Hook's like, we're on the same side, remember? How could I forget? Amidst the struggle, Rock collides with Pan and sends him flying into the middle of the lagoon. Oh no, he's not supposed to go in there. What are we gonna do? Hook just continues watching as the crocodile rips through everyone on the beach. Chapter 31 is Cass. So he and Bash have a little standoff with their sister Tilly, although they are stuck in a tree and she is flying/floating in front of them. So standoff might not be the best term, but it is what I'm using. It's shown and told to us that Tilly basically has this like baseless agenda when it comes to this fight. She's only doing this because it's what her deceased parents would have wanted her to do. The twins say that they don't want this for her, but at the same time they like lunge at her and attack her with an illusion of their own, which is like just globs of honey dripping down and like trapping her wings and weighing her down on top of them, physically weighing her down. Somehow she breaks through both them and the illusion and heads back towards the beach. The boys hot on her heels. They spot the crocodile nom-nomming on some soldiers and they're like, oh no. Tilly's like, fall back. So all the remaining fae take to the sky and leave. She does that a lot. She shows up to a fight and then wusses out and leaves. Some queen, huh? 32 is Pan. Pan sinks further into the dreaded lagoon that he is not supposed to be in. He's desperately trying to breach the surface, but something, a spirit or some sort of entity is pulling him down further, all while whispering random things at him, which is extra annoying. Like, it's one thing to be dying, but you have to listen to bad poetry on your way out. Never king, you can't have light without darkness. Whatever. I wish I could tell you it makes sense in the end, but it doesn't, so I won't. He tells the voices, I'm in no mood for your parables. What is it you want? You want me to be less dark and more light? Just fucking tell me. And to this, they just let him go. He finally breaks the surface and sees the croc on the beach treating the people like an all-you-can-eat buffet on one side. And on the other side, he hears Winnie screaming and he's worried he's too late. Oh no! Chapter 33 is Winnie. Vane lost his shadow to Holt, right? And he's all slumped over. We know that. And Winnie has been begging her shadow to like tag in or something, but he is so uninterested at this point until Winnie just says, I let you in. Like Michael Scott declaring bankruptcy.
I declare bankruptcy!
She literally has been asking the shadow to come out and play this entire time, repeatedly. But she simply says, I let you in, and it works. Semantics, shadow? Really? The Neverland Death Shadow is a Cancer, and that is all the proof that I need. With Shadow Winnie Horror finally activated, she finally just starts ripping through Holt and Co. Bones are crunching, blood spurting, yada yada yada. But it's all in vain. See what I did there? Literally, because Holt kicks Vane over the cliffside. Chapter 34. Winnie, we did not need a new chapter. She goes to jump off after him and she's like having a conversation with the shadow and the shadow's like, are you sure about this? And she's like, 1,000% yes. He also tells the shadow that if the shadow chooses her, it chooses Vane too, which I don't get how Winnie's just making the rules for this eons old entity that is currently possessing her human form. But whatever, it doesn't have to make sense. The shadow happily chooses them both, apparently, kinda. Bear hugs them and takes them into a soft landing, avoiding the craggly rocks and just plopping them down in the lagoon. They make it back to the beach, and Vanessa, my autocorrect keeps changing Vane to Vanessa, and I'm too tired to change it now. So Vanessa is somehow completely healed and says he can still feel like a remnant of the shadow inside of him. Ooh, who knows? I knows. So when Winnie told the shadow that if it chooses her, it chooses him too, he took that shit literally. Semantics, remember? This is a Cancer. I'm trying to tell you that the Neverland Death Shadow split into 2 equal parts and inhabits them both now. What a crock of shit. They fly off to crush some skulls together. Chapter 35 is Pan. The band of idiots all reconvene on Marooner's Rock and face off with Holt, who is having some trouble getting that shadow to right up inside of him, you know? Bummer. Vane tells him that the shadow chooses you just as much as you choose the shadow, and if it doesn't like you, you're screwed. And oh, I forgot this part. Holt, during the first confrontation with Winnie, back when he still seemingly had the upper hand, you know, he had threatened to strip her naked, use her within an inch of her life, gut her, and then use her intestines as a noose. So now Winnie is repeating those words to him and making him strip naked too, but she's not going to use him because she doesn't bang cowards. No, Holt. Just everyone on every single sports team at every high school she was in a close proximity to, and filthy man children. No cowards allowed! She does gut him though, which is sexy. And then Vane yeets him over the cliffside. Deja vu. Pan is so full of love that he just grabs Winnie and kisses her like he means it, because he does. And Bash says, get a room. I second that. Chapter 36, Hook. Not to ruin it for you, but Hook and Rock do not bang in this book, and trust me, no one is more disappointed than I am. Every last man has been devoured on the beach, and the crocodile finally turns to face Hook once again, and Hook's like, I knew I couldn't trust him. I knew better. But instead of just eating Hook in any way, Rock just collapses into his arm, returning to his human form and penning Hook beneath his weight. We were so close. The band of idiots shows up and finds Hook cradling Rock, and Pan tells him that he has 2 days to get his ship and his people and leave Neverland and never return ever. And take the crocodile with you. And Vane tells him, don't forget to feed and water him. Hook somehow manages to lug the crocodile all the way back to his ship. Smee meets him at the door, which is weird that she wasn't at the battle, but I don't really care enough to ponder it, so let's just keep going. Smee tells him, I have something to tell you. And she spills the beans about Wendy and the Hook Darling hybrid offspring. Hook is furious. You betrayed me! And he is livid. He is leaving. He's out! Then Smee hugs him. And Hook starts telling us about a cat that he had when he was younger that got trampled by a horse. It's not funny. Hook? Yeah, we got you out in left field, buddy. It just seems like that's the place for you, you know? He calms down a little bit, though. He's still leaving, but not as angry. So when, I guess. Where is he going? Well, he's going to get Wendy, duh! The end. Just kidding. Just kidding. Chapter 37, Balder. You have got to be kidding me. So the wolf gets a chapter, and not unlike the little brownie dudes from the first book, he speaks in third person throughout, or third wolf. He's in the underbrush watching Tilly as she struggles to pull her literal throne across the beach closer to the lagoon. You'd think someone else might be catching this, because it's obviously going to take her a while, and it's kind of a spectacle to behold. Balder continues to watch as she gets it to the lagoon and yeets it into the lagoon. And she asks the lagoon to help her. Stupid. But then something dark emerges from the water. I don't know what. Do you know? I can't even imagine. The end. Just kidding again. Oh my God. You guys are suckers. Epilogue. Pan is feeling just all the love as he peels himself away from a lost boy, dark one, Winnie whore cuddle puddle. He wants to watch the sunrise. However, he looks outside and there's no sun yet, so he's about to head back to bed, but something dark passes by his periphery. But it can't be. He opens the doors and comes face to face with something he thought was an illusion or a trick of the light. But no. Hello, Peter Pan. Tinkerbell is back and she is standing on the balcony. And the book ends. And this is actually the end. I'm not, no more jokes. I don't have any left. I've had enough. So we have reached the conclusion of book 3 in the Vicious Lost Boys series by Nikki St. Croix, Their Vicious Darling. What is there to say even? I feel like we've been here already so many times. Now, I do feel like a lot happened in this book. I do not like Rock, except if him and Hook get together. That is the only redeeming thing that's going to happen here, is if Rock and Hook live happily ever after. It better happen. Otherwise, I'm going to be freaking vengeful. I was thinking about this too halfway through this rant. I think that the only way that this book and this series in itself could be saved and salvageable to me is if at the end of book 4, Winnie just wakes up in her room and it was all a dream.
An old woman living in a nightmare.
I think that that would be fucking hilarious, because then it wouldn't matter that some of this stuff doesn't make sense. It wouldn't matter that some of the loose ends aren't tied up. It wouldn't matter that there's little to no foundation in the Swiss cheese plot. It's a dream, you know? I have dreams all the time that make no sense. The other night I had a dream that I had a mullet and that I said, woo, take that breastfeeding. You didn't get my boobs. What the hell am I talking about? What was the context around that? Why was I yelling about breastfeeding? Why was I gassing up my own boobs while having a mullet? I don't know. So that would make all of this okay. And I would retroactively go back and give the books 1 more star than I originally gave them. I really would. But you know what? I doubt that that's going to happen. I appreciate you being here and sitting with me through all of this. We've got 1 more book to go, guys. 1 more. We are so close. Still not having a real great time. The smut makes me recoil. Don't like Rock. Don't love Hook. Confusion about everything. Winnie's the dark one. The girl power book left much to be desired because it was thick with misogyny. Still, 3 books of misogyny. That's what it is. I don't know. I'm so tired and I'm ready to go. So I am going to sign off now. I love you. You don't have to say it back. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. I will see you in the next one. So close, guys. We are so close.